So given these functions here, we're going to find f of x plus h minus f of x over h. So now notice this here. All we're going to do is take our f, which is the square root of x plus 1. And for this first piece here, wherever I see x, I'm going to plug in x plus h. So it's going to go in there. Okay, so that means I'm going to get the square root. And now I ran into my x, so I'm going to put x plus h there. And then I have this plus 1 here, so I got to put the plus 1 here. All right, and then I have a minus. And then what is f of x? F of x is actually square root of x plus 1. So that's all I'm going to do for that piece. So I just write square root of x plus 1. And that's all over h. Okay, now that I'm at a point like this, I want to be able to cross this h off somehow. But I have to set it up so that I can actually do that. So what I'm going to do is I think of the idea of completing this, not completing square, but difference of squares. So now take a look at this. I'm going to take this top and I'm going to multiply it by x plus h plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. And if I do that to the top, I have to do the same thing to the bottom. And multiply it by the same expression. So now I have this. I'm multiplying the top and the bottom by square root of x plus h plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. And what's going to happen here is the big thing to notice is I picked a negative and a positive there. And you'll see why I did that in a minute. So I'm going to multiply this out. So this is going to be a FOIL on top. So I'm going to take this here and times it by the first. And think about this. If I have x plus h plus 1 square rooted squared, that means they're going to cancel each other out. And I'm just going to end with parenthesis x plus h plus 1. The square roots go away. They cancel out for that first one. So I'm just going to write it out that way. So now I'm going to do this second one here. So I'm going to multiply that out now. And they're both positive, so it's going to be a plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus h plus 1. So that's going to be the next one. Now the third one's going to be this one here. And that's going to be a negative square root of x plus 1. Now I don't have to multiply those out, so don't worry about that. And you'll see why in a minute. So that's going to give me these two pieces. And then the last one then is going to be a negative because I have a negative and a positive. So that's going to be a minus. And then, again, I run into that instance where I have square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 1, which means that's square root of x plus 1 squared, which means that those square roots and squareds cancel each other out. And I just end with x plus 1. Now, this is all going to be over h and then all of this business down here. So I'm just going to leave it in that form. I'm not going to multiply it out, and you'll see why I don't multiply it out in a minute when we get towards the bottom of this problem. And plus square root of x plus 1. So there it is. So that's what we get on the bottom now. Okay, so now we're just going to clean this top up some. Notice this. I have this plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus h plus 1. And then I have a minus that same thing. So that tells me those are going to give me 0 then. They're going to go away. Because when I subtract the same numbers, I get 0, no matter how ugly they look. So that tells me then I get x plus h plus 1 minus x plus 1 all over h times square root of x plus h plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. So now what we're going to do from here is just clean up the top some more. So I can think of a 1 there, distribute it through, and then put a 1 there, and it's a negative, so I distribute that through. So we're going to get x plus h plus 1 minus x minus 1. So when I distribute that through, that's going to be a negative or minus 1. all over h parenthesis x plus h plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1 on the bottom. Okay, now notice what happens next. I get these x's, positive, negative x, 0. Positive 1, negative 1, 0. So I'm left with, on the top, just an h. And then on the bottom, I still have this h, and this times x plus h plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. Now, I think for the most part, this is just a lot of writing, and that's okay. Don't let that discourage you with a problem like this. Works out really nice. Now these h's are going to cancel. That's why I didn't multiply it through. Then I would have to factor it out and go through this process again. So in place of those h's, it leaves a 1. So keep in mind here, I used the same word when I was talking about canceling here, but that means that's addition subtraction, so it's going to give me a 0. When I'm dividing, I get 1s. Okay, that's the idea. So hopefully that is clear to you. Okay, so then our final answer is going to be 1 over square root of x plus h plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. So there it is.